Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by MMA Veteran Dominique Robinson. Dominique, how are you?
Doing okay, man. What about yourself?
I'm doing good. Dominique, you got a fight coming up August 16th for Shinzo Fight Sport. That's a new organization. This is going to be their first show. How much do you know about this organization, and how did this fight all come together?
I don't know much about the organization. I know that it seems like they have some money behind it, and that they're utilizing the money equally behind promotion and production and to giving the fighters fair pay, which is, great being a fighter and being part of the organization for their first show. And it came together because, in MMA it's kind of weird. A lot of people think that, like, fighting is this close-knit family, but it's very hard as a fighter, like, asking questions, getting answers or help or anything from another fighter if you're not from their team. It's just like, they're just selfish. It's weird.
Right.
But a guy that I used to fight with on the card a lot of times a long time ago, he ended up being a real good friend. We stayed in touch and everything, and he got an opportunity with Shinzo as the matchmaker, and as soon as he did, I was one of the first people he called, which, testament to his character. And that's how it all came together, man. Up the blue, actually, which was a blessing because I'm a single dad, and I've been scheduled for 5 fights this year, and had like 16, 17 guys pull out over 5 cards, so it was starting to get bad.
Now, without having that contact, would have this been something where you were kind of like, I don't know if this is going to go through, a new organization operating out of a country that really isn't known for MMA? Had you not had this contact, would have you been skeptical to sign to fight on August 16th?
I would have been skeptical. I actually would have been skeptical because, I've fought for promotions before, and funny things have happened. I fought for other promotions and earned title shots that I've never got until this day. So promoters generally leave a bad taste in my mouth.
I see. Now, you're fighting internationally for the second time. Second time outside North America. You fought a lot in Mexico, but second time fighting out of North America. Your last fight was in Russia, now this fight in Guatemala. Is that something that you're looking forward to, getting another opportunity to fight globally? Yeah. I like that I've been in Russia, Mexico, Korea. It's pretty interesting. I wouldn't have the opportunity to travel the world so much without MMA, so that's a blessing. And, the most respect I've gotten from fans anywhere in the world, ironically, is Russia, a country that isn't highly looked upon in the United States, but those were the best fans I've ever had, the most appreciative of my skills and me as a fighter. So, I enjoy fighting outside the U.S., and I'm looking forward to it again and seeing the culture in Guatemala and how the people are. Not a lot of people are aware of how long you've been fighting, but you've actually been fighting for a very long time. How important is it for you now to, get more of these international opportunities to fight? How important is it for you to, kind of grow your brand, grow your name, get your name out there, fight in front of people who, ordinarily would never have seen you fight live? How important is that for you?
It's real big. I started in 2003, man, and I've managed my whole career, looked for my own sponsors, promoted myself, trained myself up till about a year ago, with the DVDs and practicing with one friend, two friends, James Chaney and Tomas Fierro, and I made it to top 100 in the world, ranked on a lot of sites doing that, and I don't think anybody else out there in the world could have done that the way that I've done it, and beating UFC guys and everything. And I fight on TV and pay-per-view a lot and beat these top people, but only hardcore fans seem to know about me. And this is every stuff I've done on my own without trainers and a big team. So, I'm always trying to fight and get more opportunities. It's MMA is different from when I started. When I started, it was like, hey, I want to fight. Okay, you can fight. You fight good. You fight again. Now it's like promoters. If you're not from a big team, they won't have you on the show. If you aren't friends with them or friends with a big-time guy, they won't have you on the show. And a lot of guys won't fight you if you're tough, and they just want to fight the easiest person to, get to the UFC. And it's just, as much as I love the sport, I hate some of what it's become, and so I'm always trying to get an opportunity to fight and showcase my skills, because they're getting rarer and rarer, which makes it harder and harder to get to the UFC. You should be fighting 4 or 6 times when you're not in the UFC a year. Instead, it's hard to fight 1 or 2, which is, strange. You would think something like fighting would be easy to do.
I was going to save this for later, but since we've got on the topic of, you not fighting and, the kind of politics behind the sport that really the fans don't really get to see because, all they do is just watch the fights. But I saw an article that you did for MMA Junkie. They had you interviewed in there, and it really caught my eye. I had wondered, what really happened to you. You hadn't been fighting. I think the last time I saw you fight was when you were fighting for Superior Cage Combat. You kind of disappeared for a while. In that article, you said that there was a point there that you thought about leaving the sport, and you didn't really have that love for the sport anymore. Just curious, how were you able to regain that love for the sport, and why did you decide to continue?
It's like I was just elaborating on, I actually love this sport. A lot of people say they do. They don't love it like me, like I was just telling you a little while ago. It's been hard, man. I help my mom and my sister and my grandma have a son, by myself. And then, I don't get to just train. I had to train and train hard. I mean, like when you have 2 friends you're training with and buying DVDs, and that's how you learn, sparring 2 friends with DVDs, you have to do that a lot more hours in a day than if you had a trainer, and then I have to look for myself and I have to promote. Even if you look at my Twitter now and I'm over 100,000 tweets, and people be like, geez, you tweet a lot. Well, I have to promote myself. I do this by myself, and then on top of that, I got in a car accident a long time ago, and I've been doing this since 2003, and about 8 years of these 10, I was fighting with one arm. And because I had spine damage, and my left arm was, within 3 minutes' time, was useless. It was inoperable. So I've went through a lot, and I was in pain every day of my life for 8 years. I went through a lot for this sport. And nothing came from it. I fought for Tai Chi Palace. I won a 4-man lightweight tournament, was supposed to get a title shot, never got it. And this was the second time they screwed me over. The first time I earned a title shot for them, I was supposed to fight Brian Cobb, and they ended up taking me out of my own title shot and putting in Carlo Prater. And who never fought there before, and then Brian Cobb ends up going to the UFC about 3 weeks before the fight, 2 weeks before the fight, to fight Terry Edom. And then they call me to fight Prater. And I had a broke rib and hadn't even been training. So I have to fight this guy for my first title shot for them with a broke rib on 2 weeks' notice. And Carlo Prater, who has 60-something fights, and end up losing a decision, and then the second time I earn my title shot, never get one. And it's like every time I'm supposed to, and he goes to the UFC, and then I fight Anderson Silva's top student in Vegas for SEC, as you mentioned. I chased the guy for 2 rounds, and then beat the hell out of him the third, and then lose, and I have to have Anderson Silva, my idol, come up to me with this and tell me he's sorry that I won. And then Dana White comes up to me and is like, you got screwed. And that fight they were talking about was possibly for a UFC contract, and it was every time I had an opportunity to go somewhere and do something, something would go wrong for some strange reason. I was just I'm over it. You know, and you know, part of it is because of how little you get to fight. You know, if I lost a fight, whether I got ripped off or not, I'm like, oh, well, I could go get 4 more and get right back on the ball, it would be different. But when you lose, and the way the sport is now, you might fight one time only that year. And then on top of that, I'm an honest guy, and promoters just hate that because a lot of them don't do right by the fighters, and I'll speak about it. So I was just like, you know, I'm over it. Who gives a shit? And then I saw Glover, you know, Teixeira, a friend of mine who years and years and years ago, like a lot of people don't know, all the big-time guys now, they all know me, you know, which is the irony of it all, and respect me. And years ago, he told me we would both be champions, and I saw him, and I just told him that he was going to be one soon, and basically that I was a piece of shit, nowhere near it, and he just told me, you know, keep grinding, that I'm not a quitter, and keep going and everything. And I was like, you know what, I'm not a quitter, you know. I gave up too much for this, a good job, school, everything, and I was like, I got to keep trying, man. You know, what am I going to teach my son if I just quit? And, you know, especially after I just got a trainer and I'm feeling good and got surgery and I'm almost 100% on that, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep going, man, and I'm going.
Had you not had that meeting with Glover, would you for sure left the sport, or was it something where, you know, over time, you know, maybe seeing him on TV doing big things, being, you know, telling yourself, hey, maybe I should come back, maybe I can do what he's doing? Was there ever a time where you thought about that on your own, hey, I need to come back, or was it just solely that meeting with Glover that made you decide that you wanted to come back?
It was solely that meeting. I probably was going to quit. That's just the honest truth, and probably try to pursue, you know, being an analyst and a trainer, because I'm a hell of a trainer. And a lot of these trainers in MMA aren't good. Like, the media is a liar, you know, no offense to you, you know, but like, a lot of the media is a liar. They tell you fighters are the best who aren't the best, and coaches are the best who aren't the best. You know, the owner of Combat Sports Academy, Karen Fitzgibbons, is a better striking coach than pretty much anybody out there in MMA, and nobody knows about him because he doesn't jump up in the media and blab his mouth. But half of the top Muay Thai artists in the U.S. literally train with this guy. You know, he's like legit. Nobody knows about him. And it's like, me, when it comes to MMA, nobody knows more than me. You know, not Matt Hume, not Greg Jackson, nobody. You know, I've been watching boxing and kickboxing since I was young. You know, I'm a fight fan. You know, like, I'm a fight analyst, not just MMA. I can tell you everything about boxing, kickboxing. You know, I watch wrestling, MMA. I own more than anybody. Like, these guys are like, oh, I watch MMA, they watch UFC. I own everything of pretty much every show. You know, I have, like, Anderson's kickboxing matches, you know, Jose Aldo jiu-jitsu matches, you know, like that Pele entire career, Fedor's entire career with Sambo. Dude, I have everything before these people are even big. You know, like rings, the King of King tournaments, that's all I do. Yeah. You know, and I was like, guys are making money off this, I need to pursue this, because MMA isn't working out with these politics. Then I saw Glover, and I had that talk, and I was like, you know, I'll give it one last go, man.
Looking back on that time now, would you have regretted it had you left? Had you said, you know what, I'm done, I don't want to fight anymore, I'm just going to move on with my life? Would you have regretted that decision because of the way you went out, kind of, you know, controversial with some of these fights that you've had, and, you know, just the way things were going? Now that you look back on that, would you regretted the decision to leave?
I wouldn't have, man. You know why? Because honestly, the sport it hasn't changed for the better. The money's better, don't get me wrong, but what it was, and nobody will understand this unless if they started a long time ago, it's just not the same. It's like, you know, a teammate of mine, Nick Diaz, always talks about he loves competing, but he hates the sport, and people are like, oh man, he's high, I don't get what he means. I understand what he means. You know, it's because the sport itself is changed, man. Mm-hmm. Like, look, if you look in Northern Cali, we have like 4 shows, and all the promoters clearly have favoritism to certain teams around here. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and I don't even need to say what promotions those are. You look at Taiji Palace, clearly has favoritism. They're coming back in August. Well, it is August now, and doing the first show back, they have a lightweight title fight between Papi Martinez and some random guy that I called out once that didn't take a fight with me instead of me. And you know, like, I wouldn't regret. How can I regret stuff like this? You look at Southern Cali; they only use Southern Cali fighters. You know, like it's bad, man. Bad. You can't. Other shows won't fly you out anywhere because they don't have the money. You go out the country, most of them won't fly you out because they don't want to, unless if you're a UFC vet. It's like, as a promoter, I don't even understand these guys. You're supposed to be building talent. You know, taking all ex-UFC guys. I understand you have to do it from a promotional sense, but you have to build talent too. You can't keep having local guys fight local guys. You have to, you know, it's like these promoters don't even understand business. You know, use the UFC guys to bring attention. Use local talent. You have to sell tickets. Bring in new guys to challenge that local talent, to build, to build talent, to build stars. You know, stars eventually burn out. You know, if you look at astrology, you know, most stars we're looking at are dead anyways when you look up in the sky. And that's how it is, man. It's like people don't see that. You know, these Rashad Evans, GSPs, Anderson Silvas, they're going to be around forever. Who's going to be next? If nobody gets that, and I would have walked away and, you know, just said, F it, man. There's nothing to regret with the way these guys are nowadays.
I've always had this theory about, matchmaking on the regional circuit that, you know, if there is a guy who people think is going to be the next big thing, he's got to get matched up against a guy who's been on the big shows or a veteran guy to prove that, you know, he can compete at a high level. If he's just fighting a guy who is just a local guy who's very young, like the guy that they're trying to build, we really don't learn anything. There's no story to be told. There's no benchmark that we can compare. Hey, you know, he just beat a veteran, or he beat a couple veterans, a couple of UFC guys, ex-UFC guys. You know, maybe he's ready to take it to the next level, but if he's...
Here's the thing. Guys will fight, they'll fight lesser competition and avoid people like me, you know, where it's like, especially, you know, because why take the harder route? And they will beat this lesser competition and beat like 6 of them, and then they get a call from the UFC. And so you get rewarded for this. There's no middle ground. Not like, oh, you fought lesser competition. Now let's make them fight like a middle-level guy and maybe a hard guy, then go to the UFC. It's just like they can beat 5 guys who wear a tap-out shirt and then get a call from the UFC. Just because nobody looks at, they fought 5 guys that's like 4 and 8. Nobody looks that deep. They just see like 5 knockouts in the first round. They're like, holy shit. Yeah, UFC, this guy's great. I've had 25 fights. I've never got an easy one, dude. No, actually, I'm lying. I fought one guy who called me out over the internet, which was just like a grudge match. That was the only person that I fought that ever was just easy guy. You know, it's crazy, man. And you know, it's funny. I was talking to James Chaney, you know, from Ultimate Fighter, he's a roommate, and he was like, you know, you did something in your career that basically screwed you. He was like, you never fought anybody easy, and now everybody knows how tough you are, so you can't get fights unless if it's a hard fight, and you made it that much harder for yourself to go anywhere in this sport. And it's true. The irony of it is I'm fighting these guys worth a damn, and it made my career harder, you know? So it's weird, man. It's weird.
Who do you think is the main culprit for, you know, making the sport go in the direction that it is going, where guys are, or their managers, whoever the promoter, whoever's making these decisions about who fights who do you think's the main culprit for for the direction that we're going in this sport, where guys are trying to save the tough fights for when they're actually, in the UFC or another big show? Who's the main culprit?
I think it's local promoters, man. Mm-hmm. These local promoters are crazy. They are like groupies. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the media don't see it. But it's like, you take guys like West Coast Fighting, for example. Mm-hmm. Me and that guy got into it before. And it's like, it's crazy the way they try to treat you. And I used to fall for it when I first started, especially managing myself. But now I know everything. And it's like, these guys are crazy. If you look at that show, it's basically a feeder show for Uriah Faber's team. And I love Uriah. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the only guys who ever offered a helping hand to me. I've known him a long time. But that show's a feeder show for his guys. Look at it, all this, Uriah's guys. There's like 800 of them on the card. I'm like, I didn't even know that many damn fighters at his team.
Right.
And you look at Tai Chi Palace, there used to be a feeder show for Jason House's guys and Uriah's guys. And the Native American guys that are part of the, the area, around there. And it's like, come on, dude, there can't be favoritism. And all these promoters, they have, like, favorite gyms, or, like, you could be from anywhere. I remember when Tai Chi Palace, when Extreme Couture guys started going over there, and they're like, oh, yeah, if you look at, dude, I have all the payouts from every Tai Chi Palace and PFC that ever happened. It's ridiculous. You see guys come from, like, a big gym that never fought there, getting bigger paydays than guys like me. I fought for them like 1,000,000 times, and late notice doing them favors 1,000,000 times, or guys who were staples there and winning. And you would see a guy from a famous team come over and get more than us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, come on, as a promoter, you have to be fair. You cannot be a goddamn fan and per se, and a promoter at the same time. You have to be a fan when your show's over. You can't be a fan when you're negotiating money and putting the show together. It just is bad. And they're the ones that are giving these guys like, oh, yeah, let's give them these pretty easy fights for these big paydays, and let's help push them to the next show. Mm-hmm. If I had a promoter helping me that way, I would be to the UFC years ago. Mm-hmm. Instead I'm fighting like Carlo Prater on 2 weeks' notice with a broke rib, Gabe Rudiger on like 2 weeks' notice, and Takumi Nakayama, former Shudo champ, on like 3 weeks' notice. It's just crazy, crazy shit, dude. Mm-hmm. It's crazy shit, and it doesn't make sense. Like, I got into it with the West Coast guy because a good friend of mine, like Isaac De Jesus, was supposed to fight for a title shot with them, got injured, and this guy who I asked to be on that same card and he ignored me, calls me up and tells me he wants me to take Isaac's place, and I say yes, and then he doesn't even tell me he's versus the Uriah Faber guy, because I will never fight any of his guys for, the help that he's given me by letting me go over there and train whenever I wanted to at times. And then a week later calls me back and says, like, oh, well, Isaac's fighting again, so you're not. And I'm okay with that, because Isaac's like a brother. I'm like, well, get me on the card anyways. And then he ignores me again. And then a week after that, Isaac ends up not fighting. Then he calls me back and says he wants me on the show. This is how these guys treat us. They don't think of us as anything. Just disposable commodities. And then I'm like, I'm not doing it, dude. I'm not doing it now. The fight's a week away. I'm not going to do it now. And I'm not going to do it anyways, because I found out it was a Uriah guy. And then the guy starts talking shit to me. Like basically telling me they didn't need me anyways. So then me and him get into it, and then everybody in the media sees it, and they're like, oh, Dominique Robinson, he's talking shit about a promoter again. Dude, I don't just go around bashing promoters, but I'm going to call it how it is, and it's not too many people who do. You have like me, Paul Daly, Nick Diaz, Josh Barnett, where some of the few people are honest about shit, and we get scrutinized for it. And it's because society just, they're like lemmings. They have to follow the pack and think what everybody else thinks, believe whatever they read and see on TV. And if somebody, crashes the mold, they go a different direction, we get ousted for it. You know, and it's just all bullshit, man.
I'm kind of confused about what some of these promoters think, because what do they really have to gain by showing favoritism? Because, you know, if you're a good fighter and you fight for a show and you do good and then you eventually move up to the UFC, they can take credit. You know, hey, you got to start here. But if they're showing favoritism to certain gyms, you know, what do they have to gain? Because, you know, like you mentioned, West Coast fighting, if you're local or if you're a hardcore fan, you know who they are. But if you're not, you have no clue who they are. So what do they have to gain by, you know, shunning people or, you know, handpicking who they do want or who they don't want to fight on the card? You know, how does that work? What do they have to gain?
You hit the nail on the head right there and don't even realize it, because you said if you know, if you're an average fan, West Coast fighting, you're not even going to know who the hell they are. So that's the whole point. So you have Dominique Robinson, some self-trained fighter on the card, and I can fight my ass off. I've never had a boring fight, you know, and you have me on the card, the average fan is like, Dominique Robinson, who the hell is that? And then you have, like, some Uriah guy on the card, or like Andre Feely or something. Is like Andre Feely, and he's a good fighter too. Don't get me wrong,
he's good.
Andre Feely, and then next to it, Team Alpha Male. Now the regular fan is going to know. They know Uriah Faber. He's earned his place. You know, Uriah started a long time ago too. He earned everything he had. I've seen it. I know him. You know, he's not one of those guys that skipped over like a lot of these guys now. Like, oh yeah, I'm GSP's friend. Oh, coming to the UFC. He earned everything he has. And you know, so people know who he is. He's everywhere. And then they see Andre Feely, Team Alpha Male, and when this show that the average fan doesn't even really know about is promoting, and they're going to be like, oh, I don't care about this. What is this little show? But then they see these guys from Alpha Male on there and other teams they recognize. They're going to get interest. They want to go now. You know, they want to go. You have Tai Chi Palace promoting their shows, and it's like, oh, yeah, we had Extreme Couture guys come in. He had some Greg Jackson guys on the card. And the fan sees the flyer and sees, like, Greg Jackson's camp, Extreme Couture. They know who Greg Jackson is. They know who Couture is. Now they're interested, you know? And so it's bringing people to the show by having these, like, having favoritism to these famous camps and everything. And I understand that. You have to get money to your show, but you can't be biased and you can't be like groupie like to only that. Some of the best guys I've ever trained with, and I've sparred almost everybody, are people you've never heard of, dude. You know, you got to give a chance to cultivate talent from other places. You have to make that opportunity. As a businessman, I don't see it. You know, like I've been trying to get over to Europe a long time, or Japan and stuff, and it's like, oh, we can't fly people over. You're having the same Japanese guys fight the same Japanese guys. You're having the same European fighters fight the same ones. Bring people in. Bring something different. You have to spend money to make money. One of the first concepts of business and economics. Like, am I the only one who understands this? You know? Doesn't make sense.
With these promoters being the way they are, I'm just confused by you know, this whole thing about how these promoters think. But you know, when they say, hey, you know, we have, you know, the best talent, or we're searching for the, you know, the diamonds in the rough, we're searching for, you know, the best fighters out there, should that have an asterisk next to it? Like, hey, we're looking for the best fighters who, by the way, come from the best teams. Should that be included there?
It's true. Put it like this: if I was good friends with Michael Dan Chandler, and he was like, yeah, this is my buddy, you know, or Daniel Cormier, and he's like, yeah, I wrestled in college with the guy. This guy's a great, you know, he's a great wrestler, you know, he's a great, I would be wherever the hell I wanted to be right now. Like, you got to look at the, dude, it's crazy. Like, look at that Henry Cejudo guy, that Olympic wrestler. He's fought like 5 times this year, 6 times already, dude. I'm like, who is his manager?
Right.
You know, you look at Michael Chandler. He was friends with Gray Maynard. His like first fight were in Bellator and Strikeforce. These are the only places that guy has fought, dude. Don't get me wrong; he's a hell of a fighter. But my point is, he's friends with Gray Maynard and Ben Askren. and he starts off his fucking career. Oh, can I curse?
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
It starts off his fucking career in Bellator and Strikeforce. Like, you know how absurd that is? Mm-hmm. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy, man. I just sit at home laughing about stuff half the time. Like, are you kidding me? And then they get, like, sponsorship automatically. They get these great trainers. Like, he got Gil Martinez right away, great boxing coach. These sponsors that helping him with bills right away, and starts off in Strikeforce Bellator because he's friends with Ben Askren and Gray Manis. So you're telling me if I would have been just friends with somebody, I could have these sponsors helping pay all these fucking bills I have? You know what I mean? Like, things that should matter don't matter. You know what? Like, they don't matter. Like, if anybody they write, damn, this guy actually helps his mom and grandma and his brother and sister, and he's a single dad when hella guys don't even take care of their kid. He's been fighting all these years, training himself with one arm. That's a hell of a story. Let's get behind this guy. You know, he donates to homeless shelters and everything all the time. He's educated. He grew up poor with a hard life and survived all this shit. Let's sponsor this guy. Let's get behind something like this. People don't care about stuff like that. They don't care about people really doing things anymore. Now it's like, oh yeah, he's friends with this guy, this famous guy. Let's help him. You know, give him whatever he wants. And you know, like Nick Diaz, he's earned his place. You know, and look at that. That guy has a hard time getting sponsorship and all this. People like, oh, he's flipping the bird and shit. He should be flipping the damn bird. People don't even understand what's really going on out here. I'm shocked I'm not flipping the bird, you know? And then if you're honest and you speak your mind, it is the end of you in this sport. It's the end of you. And you take people like Barnett or Nick or Paul Daly or myself, I don't know how to be anything but authentic. You know, I don't know how to be anything but genuine. My family's Creole and from the South. You know what I mean? And I have other family in Haiti and everything. We don't know. I don't know how to be anything but real. So for better or worse, I have to speak my mind. But I'm never going to lie. You know what I mean?
Dominique, with you...
Alex, it was one of the best times of my life when Christian Printup ran it. You know, it was pretty cool. You know, I always got paid good, but I didn't get paid as much as I should have, but I always got paid well. It was on TV. You know, at least I was fighting often until, you know, Christian left. So, but it had a lot of bullshit going on with it at the same time. After he left. You know, I'm always tell it like it is, which might be my downfall, man.
Dominique, what happened with MFC? Because that was what looked like to be a big opportunity for you. You're finally getting a chance to fight in a big show again. What happened with them? Because for whatever reason, you had a fight, then you didn't have a fight, then you had a fight, and then you fell off and you've never fought for them at all. So what happened with MFC?
Oh, well, what happened there is, that was a strange 2 weeks, actually. I got called on, like, a Tuesday to fight for Strikeforce for, like, a Friday, and I was, like, injured. You know, I'm like, wait, I'm not doing that because I know how this works. I've done it for shows before, and they won't even, like, do you a favor. You know, like my boy Rich fought for Bellator on 2 days' notice, a weight class up, and all we asked in return was give him another opportunity, win or lose, to have a training camp at his weight class. They couldn't even do that. They couldn't. So I know how it is. So I was like, nope, I can't do a Strikeforce. And then that same week, everybody was texting me saying I was fighting for Bellator and congratulations. And I'm like, huh? What? And, you know, one of my boys ended up sending me the article, and I'm like, what the hell? So I ended up talking to Mark Pavlich, you know, like, how did this come to be? And some guy from Northern Cali was pretending to be my manager, as a million people do. Let me put this on record now. The only person that helps me or James Chaney is Trina Villegas That's our personal assistant, and she's the one anybody has to talk to when it comes to us getting a fight. You know, that's Goon Squad _HBIC on Twitter. That's the only person, because there's a lot of people that say they manage me that don't. And Gary Ibarra helps me out with finalizing contracts. That's it. So if anybody wants me for a fight or James, talk to Trina Villegas. I'm letting that be known. Mm-hmm. But anyways, this guy was pretending to be my manager and like called them and told them I would fight Mukai Maramo on their show. Mm-hmm. For less money than I've ever been paid before at that. And then I have to clear things up with Pavlich, and he was pissed, and he was kind of mad at me, and I was like, dude, you know, it's not my fault, dude. Mm-hmm. So he kind of, you know, I hope he got over it. You know, he seemed less angry when we got off the phone than when I got on to tell him I had nothing to do with that guy, you know. And I can understand him being angry in his position. He thought he had a good fight. You know, Maramo's a hell of a fighter, and and I fight my ass off, and we're both stand-up guys, so, and then it gets ruined because some guy lying, so that's what happened with that, man. A lot of people don't know, but so I didn't even know I was on there, dude, until somebody told me.
Mm-hmm. So you had never signed anything at all? You had no contract with them? This was just something where someone was just saying that they were your manager and talking to them? Like, how did it go from you're supposed to fight Mukai Maramo to you've never been with the organization? How did that work?
I don't know. That pretend manager guy just talked to them as if he was, and I guess from what Pavlich told me, I sent the guy a contract and everything, and the guy told him I would do it, and it was just all fake, dude. Like, I literally found out about it from people sending me the article, you know? And people were telling me congratulations for something that never actually came to fruition in reality. So after I talked to Pavlich, you know, it dissipated as quickly as it appeared.
Oh, I'm cracking up over here. Mark Pavlich got catfished. I think it's funny.
Yeah, and the irony of it is, when I found out who it was a guy that I actually know. And everybody told me was a piece of shit. And me not liking to judge people like the average person, I was like, you know, I have to find out if he is or not on my own. Because I've seen this guy around for years and years, and lo and behold, he ends up being a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Now, getting back to the fight on August 16th, you're going to be taking on Tommy Truex. I think that's how you say his name. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
I don't know. I've tried to find tape on him, and I can't find anything. But I found the only thing I needed to find, and that was an interview of his, and that just pissed me off, dude. Mm-hmm. So I don't even need tape. That's motivation enough. You know, I find this interview of him, and the guy just has no respect for any fucking body, and I'm a respectful guy. And dude, it's one thing, you know. I'm from the hood, man. You don't disrespect nobody. That's an ass whooping or worse, you know, from places I've been growing up. And this guy, like, he talks about Rory McDonald, who he has nothing to do with, being super talented, but boring as hell. And he has an obligation to be an exciting fighter like himself. And then he talks about Jake Ellenberger being a hell of a fighter, but not knowing how to get around a simple weapon like a jab, like he himself does, and pussing out in that fight. And then he goes on to talk about Melvin Gillard, his ex-team, being this super talented fighter, but basically a mental midget. Mm-hmm. And he like knew Jim Miller with him. Then he goes on to talk about GSP, a teammate of his, being super talented and a monster in the gym, but when he fights, he has an obligation to be exciting, and he himself is always exciting, no win or lose, and seeing GSP be boring is just like a shame. And then he goes on to talk about my teammate Nick Diaz being a dick, and how he wants to take him on the ground and show him what he had do to him. And let me put this on record now, and he wouldn't do shit to Nick on the ground. Take it from me. And then Nick asked him when his next fight is, and he talks about this XFC fight he has signed exactly 3 weeks after our fight, and all about his opponent and how he studied him and how this guy is supposed to be ready and all this stuff. He doesn't mention a word about me. So not only does that mean that I'm not an opponent to him, that just means that he's getting through me with that easy, with no damage, to take a fight in 3 weeks. He doesn't even mention me. Dude, I'm 17-4-2. My 2 draws should have been wins, and I've dropped to both people in them. My 4 losses, 2 of them should be wins. My loss to Prater is my only legitimate loss, and my loss to Gabe Rudiger really should have went to a round 3 because he fucked up the clock. You know what I mean? And I've hurt all 4 of those guys, and of my 17 wins, I've knocked out 13 people. You know, and one guy I didn't even knock out in one of my fights I should have won. That was a loss in the guy's hometown. That guy had surgery and was out 2 years after fighting me. I'm like, you got to do your research, dude. Don't disrespect me and just fucking skip over me after talking shit about fighters at a level we're trying to get to, my teammate and your teammate, like you're just going to fucking blow through. I've never been blown through. If you look at my fights, I probably have the highest defensive stats in all of MMA. You know, I've been hit less than like 30 times in almost every fight of 25 fights. And then on top of that, I can take a shot. You know, I trained with Kareem Mayfield and Andre Ward and real fucking boxers. You know, like, dude, don't do it, dude. That just, everything about him pisses me off now.
Yeah, I read your... Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, don't get me wrong, he can beat me. You know, I don't expect him to. You could put it that way.
Sure.
Especially me pissed off.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I read your Twitter and I saw that, you know, you had quoted all the things that you just told me you have quoted on your Twitter, and I noticed that you've never referred to him by his name, so I had a feeling that there was some bad blood going into this one. And, you know, with him kind of maybe looking forward to this XFC fight, are you hoping that maybe, you know, you said you never had an easy fight, are you hoping that maybe this time around he might overlook you so you can finally get that easy one in?
Here's the thing. I mean, I've never had an easy fight as far as opposition, but I don't mean I've never had an easy fight in the way that the fights went for me. My fights, if you watch them, they're all the same. It's me after the person, and they either get knocked out or they get hurt and grab on me enough to survive. That is, I've been hurt with a punch to the chin one time in my life. That's sparring, street fights, anything, and that's when I fought at middleweight as a lightweight, and I just got hit with a right hook I did not see, you know, and I recovered instantaneously. That's the only time I've ever been hurt with a punch to the face. And then the only other time I've been stunned is when Gabe closed his eyes and swung with a spinning back fist and hit me behind the ear, which is weird. You know, anatomically, that doesn't even hurt you, but it does disrupt equilibrium. So you can probably say ever in my life I've been hurt once and had the merry-go-round put on me one time ever, you know? So, dude, as far as fighting and being in a hard fight, I've never... Actually, excuse me, not to disrespect my opponent, I've had one hard fight. The only person that's ever stood and fought me was in Russia. And everybody knows Russian... they're just crazy. The only person that I've ever had an actual fight with where I was like, fuck, I'm fighting, dude. You know? Besides that, it's never been like that. And that's not disrespecting anybody that I've fought. I've fought great people. You know, John Anderson, a great competitor. It's just, stylistically, I always end up in an advantageous, you know, position when I fight because of the type of style I have. But so I don't see what this guy could do. I'm like, holy shit, you know. It's a million ways to lose in a fight, and the better fighter doesn't always win. So I don't underestimate him by a long shot. I could zig when I should have zagged like Anderson, and that can be it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, dude, he's fighting an uphill battle, dude. Mm-hmm. Especially overlooking me. He's fighting an uphill fucking battle.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, your main objective on August 16th will be to get a win, but besides that, how important is it for you to make this fight have no controversy in it? Because your last 3 fights have all had controversy. All 3 of those fights you should have won. I mean, the draw was kind of ridiculous because of the illegal strike. I don't really know what the referee was thinking on that one, but you should have won the Steve Lopez fight. Everyone who saw the fight with Anderson Silva's guy said that you won that fight, and then your last fight was an exhibition match because your opponent no-showed at the weigh-in or something weird happened. We had to have an exhibition match, and your opponent that you fought anyways, you controlled the fight for 3 rounds, but still, I don't know what the judges, what they were scoring on, what criteria they were looking at, but you lost that fight as well. So obviously your goal is to get a win, but besides that, is it to make this fight have no controversy, and whether you win or lose, to have it be, hey, I won or I lost? Is that, your objective on August 16th?
Yeah, I have to just knock the guy out. Steve Lopez, trust me, I tried. That guy's head, Jesus Christ. Dude, I kicked his head off like 4 times. I still have a dent in my shin, literally, from it. I don't know what's going to get. That ref was just a piece of shit. Chris Tagoni let Travis Brown elbowed the back of Gabriel Gonzaga's head like 88 damn times and knocked him unconscious. I elbowed Steve Lopez the side of his head. I even have pictures with the side of his head bleeding and him on the side of his head, and he instantaneously took a point from me, and I will forever hate his fucking soul for it. And it's just like, dude, I have to, the thing is, Steve Lopez, he had a hell of a chin, and he was trying to hold me. Anderson's guy was running from me, and it was hard for me to cut him off in a cage. I wasn't used to that concept at the time. So, it just like, I was like, okay, so basically my new thing I worked on a lot is, 1, getting people off of me faster when they try to hold me, and 2, cutting people off when they run from me, because I have to touch the person to get him. And if you look at when I fought Anderson's guy, the very first punch I landed on him clean, he went down. I just have to, my coach worked on me with finding ways to, just touch the people, like, because they're either being far away or too close. So I've worked on that a lot, because if they can't hug me to death or run, and I touched them, that's it, dude. That's it. So I'm going to see if I could bring that into effect this fight. I'm trying to highlight reel this guy, and then I'm wondering what he's going to say about all these fighters he says he's more exciting than and better than after this. I want to use the jab a lot, too, because supposedly he can dodge a jab a lot better than Jake fucking Ellenberger, so I'm going to purposely have that weapon ready to test that theory,
Dominique, how's your training camp been going for this fight? Because you're known for basically having fights on a week, 2 days, 1 day. I mean, all these crazy short notice fights you've had. How's it been to have a full training camp in preparation for this one?
It's been hell, dude.
Oh.
I'm always in shape. I'm not one of those guys that get big like Quinton or Anthony Jackson. I mean, not Anthony Johnson. I mean, not Jackson,
right.
And stuff like that. And a lot of fighters, surprisingly, they don't train unless if they have a fight coming up. That's all I do. And, excuse me for yawning, man. And
go ahead. And,
I'm always in shape, so I've actually been ready to fight weeks ago. So it's just like every day in training, I'm like, because I'm already like in tip-top shape. So I'm like, what else can I do today? Shit. So I'm just ready to go, man. So having a full camp has actually been miserable for me. Because like 2 weeks in, I was already in like tip-top shape. So I went from like good shape to great shape in like 2 weeks. So the rest has just been trying to maintain great shape without, overtraining, basically.
Who's going to be cornering you for this fight? Because James Chaney, your good friend, he's also fighting on this card. He's going to be taking on Joaquin Spirit Wolf. Just curious, who's going to corner you for the fight?
I have Trina Villegas coming, which is my assistant, basically manager, and she's always good for. She's just like the ultimate enthusiastic person, so it's always good to just have somebody there to where their voice could cancel out the doubts, you know. And then James is cornering me. No matter what me and James fight, you know, that's my brother. We always go corner each other because nobody knows our styles like each other. And then I'm actually bringing in Armin Safari to come corner me, which is a teammate of mine. And this guy's been wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, and doing jiu-jitsu since he was like 8, 9, you know, and just an excellent fight analyst who's another guy that should be paid as a coach that nobody knows about. And he's young, too, and just knows every art of fighting. And he can break things down, you know, fast in a fight, every aspect and all the transitions. So for the simple fact that we don't know what this guy's bringing to the table, I need somebody there with me like that can analyze things fast and give me the proper calls to make the adjustments, because I'm an analytical fighter myself, but I'm looking at it subjectively, and I need somebody with that same skill objectively, you know, to put those two things together, because I'm going to have to figure things out fast with this guy.
Ultimately, how do you see the fight playing out?
I don't know anything about him, but for some reason in my mind, I can't see him coming from Gray Jackson's camp and them not telling him to take me down.
Sure.
You know, I just, why take the hardest route to victory, which is striking with me? You know, and I could be shooting myself in the foot. He could be a better striker than me and knock me out, who knows, but I don't see that happening. So I think he's going to try to wrestle me like everybody else does. Everybody thinks I can't wrestle. Everybody thinks I have no jiu-jitsu. The reason everybody thinks this is because nobody ever has to see it. You have to get past my first line of offense for me to use my second or third, and nobody has. You know, so I think he's going to try to wrestle me like everybody else does. He's going to burn himself out like everybody else does, and then I'm going to knock him out. That's how I see it going.
Like I said earlier, I read your Twitter, and I noticed that a lot of the people that you have conversations on Twitter with are porn stars. A lot of the people that you talk to on Twitter have XXX in their Twitter handle. I'm just curious, how do you know all these people? Are you a bouncer at a strip club? You know, how exactly do you know these people?
Yeah, I'm a Pisces, man, so I'm a sexual sign. But, you know, a lot of people think sex is like, oh, it's fucking taboo. Oh, my God. Come on, man. You know, if anything has sold this world for years and years, it's controversy, sex, and violence. And people want to act like they aren't into sex and everything. And porn never, it's lasted so long because of that. I'm just open about it. And a good friend of mine, Luke Skywalker, is actually, he owns a porn company. So I ended up meeting some porn stars through him, and some of them are exactly like what you would think a typical porn star would be. You know, the stereotype of them all. And some of them have actually been some of the nicest people I've ever met. And it's probably due to the fact that they're always judged, you know? They're always judged. And they're used to just having people do that and having this weird stigma put on them. And ironically, I don't know, you know, if you look at it psychologically, I guess I can make a presumption, but maybe that's what made them such nice people, and they're just cool. So I'm actually friends with a lot of them, you know, so I just sit there and chit-chat and see how they're doing and everything like that, you know, and hung out with them a million times, and it's actually, you know, it's cool. And not cool like, oh, cool, like it's a porn star to me. I don't give a shit what you do for a living. I'm not one to judge. You know what I mean? Do what whatever the hell it is makes you happy in this world. All I care about is good people, because trust me, I've been a lot of places, and it's not too many of them out there, man.
The reason I asked is because... Oh, go ahead.
If you could be good people and no drama, I'm always down for the company, male or female, you know?
The reason I asked was because I was just wondering what maybe your other job is, because, you know, you haven't fought since April of 2012, and in this sport, if you don't fight, you don't get paid. So how have you been able to pay your bills over the course of this year plus that you haven't fought?
I do like freelance, I guess you can say consulting, but people that are having problems with different stuff, like with their businesses, and they need, like, basically ideas or to figure out what's going wrong and how to up sales, and people who have problems, whether it's marital problems, sex problems, this weird stuff. Basically, I get paid to figure things out for people. So I get out a lot of places and do different stuff. And then on top of that, I do a lot of, like, computer work, too. Like, people always want me to put stuff on a computer and things like that. But mostly it's just a psychological. You know, my family has a lot of people in it with degrees in psychology and sociology, and I just ended up using that and doing this, because everybody always has come to me when they have problems for some reason my whole life, and I always help people solve their problems, but could never solve my own. And I just ended up turning into this, so I just end up going around and helping people, and then sometimes it ends up being with, like, business projections and how to fix that kind of stuff, because, you know, I went to a pretty good school, so I'm a well-studied guy. I stay up all night, and all I do is pretty much read and study, so I'm pretty well-rounded when it comes to education, so it helps when I'm doing this. But that's how I make money. In the meantime, I can't get no goddamn sponsors. You know, my grandma talked about back in the days, the community helping each other. Now, and it's like, dude, the community don't help nobody, dude. And trust me, I don't have a lack of sponsors for not trying. I hit up MMA sponsors. I hit up local businesses. It's just, ironically, the only people that people sponsor are people that already have money. Right. which is weird, believe it or not. But when you're famous and have a ton of money and really don't need any more, they will give you free fucking money, dude.
It's like that famous actor or famous actress who goes to a restaurant and they have the money to pay for their meal, but the restaurant just allows them to have it for free. I always thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's weird, because in an interview with Spilled Bag of Ice and Gary before, I used that exact analogy. Like, I talked about that exact thing, and it just disgusts me, to be quite honest. You know, and dude, come on, with all these homeless people out there, and then they throw food away too, like these restaurants. And I'm like, dude, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, just like Panda Express, a lot of people don't know, whatever food is left over, they don't even let the employees take home. They just throw it away. Like, dude, it is so much that just pisses me off, and it's just, I wish I could just live in this little, quote-unquote, my world bubble like the average person, so I can just be happy and be like, oh, yeah, everything's great, but I just can't do it, man. Unfortunately, I feel like Sherlock Holmes in the movie, part 2, the girl was like, what do you see? And he said, everything. That's my curse. And that part of the movie just stuck with me, because that is exactly how I feel about shit.
Dominique, how did you get the nickname Fallen Angel? Where did that come from, and who gave you that nickname?
That came from back in the days, man. I used to hang out a lot on the streets, you know, unbeknown to my mother. You know, my mom would have just beat my ass, man. But I used to, you know, we used to, man, go through tough stuff. Like, I remember, because I moved around a lot, stayed in a lot of different places growing up, and I remember when I was in North Carolina being so poor, man, having to go, like, fishing for crawfish to eat and all kind of just dirty shit, like in the trash can and just bad. And I would always, despite what I didn't have, I would always help people or give people stuff, even though I didn't have too much to give. And one day, a friend of mine, who I used to always share food with, because he was worse off than I was, and he told me, he was like, man, you always do things for people, and nothing good ever comes back to you. And I was like, yeah, whatever, man. And he was like, I forgot about you, and you're a fallen angel. And then on the streets, you know, everybody gets their little nicknames when you're out there running around doing stuff. And people started calling me Fallen Angel for two reasons. It was like, one, because, you know, he told everybody that story out, like, oh, Fallen Angel, and it just stuck. And then two, because, of course, if you look at things in a biblical sense, a fallen angel is the devil. And people used to say, like, I was this, like, calm, little, cute, pretty boy, you know, so to speak. And I was always like kind of an introvert and kept to myself in the quiet one around my friends, but I was the one you did not want to piss off, because like I literally had just this rage inside of me. And once I started fighting or whooping somebody's ass, I would go beyond a normal street fight. Like I would really try to hurt people, you know, and that was another reason why it ended up sticking, you know, because I've been in a lot of stuff on the streets, you know, and my family has a lot of people in it that were in gangs, and a lot of my friends were in gangs and dealing with big time gangs, you know, not like small time stuff. And I was always around them, so naturally I would get into stuff too. You know, if you look at my back, I have like 4 knife wounds on it, you know, and I remember one time we were in a big fight, and I always was in stuff trying to help my friends. I'm very protective of friends and family, and I got stabbed in the shoulder and just instantly clicked. And like, dude, it's weird. Like, you know how they say fire burns, but ice can burn too. It's so cold.
Right.
It's like, that's what I would be. Me and James talk about it. It's like he's fire, he's emotional, I'm ice. I'm cold and calculated. And it's like, I remember getting stabbed in the shoulder, and everybody that was there talks about it to this day. I didn't even flinch. I just turned around and just proceeded to beat the living hell out of the person. And it was just, everybody's like, whoa, man, this is crazy, you know, but that's how I used to be. I just had so much, you know, I guess hurt inside. You know, I grew up with, you know, my mom and my dad, and I've seen great women like her and my grandma who has done so much. She works for the government, and she's older now, and she still has to fucking work, you know? And I've seen this woman, like, you know, she grew up in the South when it was, like, still racist as hell, you know? And she overcame all that and has done all these amazing things in her life and taken care of all these people, and she's never gotten anything good from it. And I've seen my mom bust her ass. She's never gotten anything good from it, you know? And my dad's side of the family is rich, and they've never helped, you know? And I've went through a lot of shit, and I learned at a young age that you don't always get back what you put out, and good people rarely get what they deserve. And, you know, and I've just always had this just quiet hatred towards it. And you know, like, when I look at society, it's like, you know, they'd be like, oh, the 7 deadly sins, and you shouldn't follow them. But when you really look at the 7 deadly sins, when you look at society in general, human beings, we are the 7 deadly sins. You know, it's not like these things are out there that you shouldn't do. Most people themselves embody all 7. You can see it in their everyday actions, you know, and it's just, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all people are shitty people, but the majority of them are, you know. And it's like, being a person like I am, I sit and watch, and I've been a lot of places in the world, and it's, the strange thing about it is, I've heard people of different cultures in different geographical locations say the same bull bullshit excuses that they think are reasons for doing the shitty things they do and being the shitty people that they are when it comes to the same topics. And none of these people know each other. And I've been seeing this and observing this for years, you know, and it's like I had a good friend that I've known like 12 years that I'm not friends with anymore, that like last year, for example, this shows you how people are. It's like this person, like their families betrayed them, their friends have betrayed them, their fucking lovers have betrayed them. Like everybody in their life has betrayed them. Nobody has done nothing for them except for me and my family. And this person has nothing good to say about me. They have nothing good to say about my family. They don't even speak to me anymore. You know, like they work their dream job currently because I helped them get it and pushed them in that direction. Mm-hmm. And everything that's positive in their life right now is because I helped them in my family. And after they got to that place, they just stopped speaking to me or my family and have nothing good to say about any of us. It's just like people, but it's weird. They will talk about all the shit they hate, and they themselves end up becoming exactly the shit they hate. It's people are too entitled, you know? They're entitled, they're self-righteous, they're selfish, greedy, prideful. It's like, and then conversely, there's people who are the exact opposite, that can be asshole naked with just underwear on in 20 below and take off their damn underwear and give it to somebody else, and they will freeze and die. Mm-hmm. But those people are rare, you know, and MMA is an interesting thing. I've got to travel and meet the worst of the worst people who just remind me of everybody else, but then I've come across some very special people through it, too, that I'm kind of like, you know, maybe there is some hope for society, you know, so It's been an interesting ride, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, this interview has been a very interesting ride for me. I knew you had an interesting story going into it, but after hearing you speak and your views on mixed martial arts and life in general, hats off to you. You know, you've got, you know, a very thick skin, and you're very mentally tough. That's one thing that I'll take away from this. And so, Dominique, it's been a very long interview, but so I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk. Last question here. What is the end goal for you in this sport? What's your game plan for your career? You know, I know it's very hard to predict because with promoters and the politics behind the sport, it's kind of a crapshoot. But what are you hoping to do? What's your goal, and what's your game plan to try to get it done?
I want to fight often. You know, I like to fight often. I feel I'm the best when I fight often, and I feel everything will come from fighting. You know, if I fight and I win, then people know about me. I fight and I win, my money goes up. I fight and I win, I get to the places I want to get to as far as other promotions, and the sponsors will come to me. I won't have to look for them. You know, and I just want a chance to test myself versus everybody and see how far I could go. I believe, and a lot of people have been telling me, and this is when I didn't even have trainers, I have the talent to be one of the best in the world, and I'm 31 now. You know, I'm a young 31, but I'm 31 nonetheless, and I would like that opportunity. I don't ask for shit free. I just want the opportunity to fight off and test myself and try to prove that to myself. And my ultimate goal in this is I want to open a gym. You know, I want to open a gym, not like a normal MMA gym, but I want to open a gym where it has an MMA program to give fair opportunities to people for training who also have this dream, but at the same time it also promotes health and fitness for women and men of all ages, because people, they don't take care of themselves. You know, like you look at Japan, it has the most people in the world that live over 100. Our country, obesity is high, diabetes, everything, and I want to promote good overall health and also have programs in there to help underprivileged families and kids. And it, being an owner of a business, my thing has always been, the best thing about it is you have the opportunity to give somebody else help. So why shouldn't you? You see these people now, they won't even hire people and stuff. I think being able to hire somebody is the neatest thing in the world. You can change somebody's life just from hiring them. And, you know, and I want to do that. And I also want to become an analyst, because I just feel I know more about anybody in this sport, and a trainer. And I always hope to be in movies and maybe write a book. I've actually started writing a book or make a Japanese manga one day, and this sport can actually help all of that, come to fruition. So that's what my ultimate goal is, and make money to help my mom and grandma now. And when I die, I'll be able to leave things behind that if people upkeep them, to keep taking care of my son and, everybody. And if I have this money, I can help some of these good people that I say I have met through MMA. You know what I mean? Because some of them in their respective businesses, they deserve more and they're not getting that chance too. So, that's all I want. I just want to make money to help people, which is ironically maybe the reason I will never make it, because it seems like the shittiest people are the ones who do. So, can I thank my sponsors too?
Oh, yeah, that was the next question, so go right ahead.
Yeah, I want to thank my gym, first of all, Combat Sports Academy. Any fighter that's not getting time put into them, they should come there. We have, the best Muay Thai people in the U.S. We're a Cesar Gracie affiliate, so great jiu-jitsu there, great wrestling coach, great owners of the gym, and MJ and Karen Fitzgibbons, and Val Ignaton, my Sambo coach, Phil Mondello, my cut man, best cut man in the business, and Val Ignaton been teaching the Diaz brothers since they were young, just great MMA coach. Samsara Management, that's Tree Viegas. Any fighter looking for a manager, holler at her. I want to thank Red Gear. They've been giving me a lot of gear, so I got to thank them too. And thank Sweet Sweat. They hooked me up with some. They're not like official sponsors, but they still shot me some gear, and OPRO shot me a mouthpiece. So I'm hoping to get those guys on as real sponsors, but I want to thank them for shooting me out some stuff for this fight. But Guarding the Life, the three ladies over there have just been great and saved me so much money on supplements, and they just make great supplements. So people should check them out. And Dr. Dan at Main Street Chiropractic, a teammate of mine, Dr. LaCara, and Olivia, she does my massage and my grafting and ART and everything at Sports Plus. And Norman and his brother at Aura Apparel, they work with Janet Jackson and a lot of the Raiders, the Niners, a lot of people, but they're starting to make a lot of gear and get the new type of clothing that glows in the dark, this crazy stuff. So they've been a big help. They're actually helping me with a lot of stuff monetarily. So I really thank them. And then I got Razor, Team Razor. Got to thank those guys. And they're a gaming company, and they just shot me a lot of electronics for gaming, because I am a gamer like hell. I hope to have PlayStation one day as a sponsor, and Viz Media that makes anime, and dude, it'd be great. But and Trina Viegas, she helps me with everything. Everything. I couldn't do any of this without her, and it's almost like I'm not even a single dad half the time. She helps me with so much. And Nelia, she helps me with all my medical stuff. My Goonies, the Goon Squad, they help me. My mom, my son. And thanks for the interview too, man. And my boy Spillbag Ice and Gary. People need to holler at Spillbag Ice and Director Patrick on Twitter. They're two great movie writers, and people need to holler at them. And my boy Hetty. And visit me at Fall Ninja 510 on Instagram, Twitter, Skype, Boxer, all that, man. And therealfallninja.com. But thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Dominique, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck August 16th at Shinzu Fight Sport 1 against Tommy Truex.
All right, thank you, man.